Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 227. Without any delay, start explanation. Yellow 4 spoke, I'm a defense-type Soul Master. Satisfied with everyone's answers, Purple 1 nodded. Even though the identity of each fighter was kept secret, and Soul Masters were not allowed to question each other's ability, at least knowing their area of expertise would be beneficial when working together as a team. Very well. Then, Yellow 3, what is the level of your control? Tang Wulin answered, Vine-type control, skilled in bind that controls the entire area. Also with a certain level of attacking ability. Purple 1 spoke, alright, then you shall be our squadron's master control Soul Master for the time being. I'll be the head of the arrow, Yellow 2, you'll be healing at the back, while Yellow 1 is in charge of reconnaissance. Yellow 4's top priority is protecting Yellow 2 and Yellow 3. Understood. Understood. The members of the group were capable of being Yellow fighters because they were all elite. It only took a simple exchange to complete the details of the mission. Depart. Purple 1 did not waste time with idle talk. At the wave of his huge hand, the 5 of them left the Battle Soul Hall and boarded the Soul Car specially prepared by the Tang Sect. The Tang Sect Soul Car was completely blue. It was said that the color was meant to commemorate the sect's first ancestor, Tang San. It was no ordinary blue pigment, as the car was able to change color with such precision that it could easily camouflage in numerous situations. Moreover, the car, specially built for the Tang Sect, was also equipped with other types of functions. Tang Wulin had never seen Tang Sect's high-tech equipment before, because he had been just a white fighter. Before this, he had only come across the Tang Sect combat vehicles rate on the exchange list. It was very costly. It was even comparable to rare thousand-year spirit items. Purple 1 personally drove them. Tang Wulin soon noticed the advantages of using the combat vehicle. It was fast and very stable and, from within, he could not hear any noise from outside. The vehicle was 5-seated, so everyone could adjust their own seat into a comfortable position. Purple 1 and Yellow 1 sat in the front while Tang Wulin, Yellow 2 and Yellow 4 sat in the rear seats. Soon after leaving the sect's headquarters, Purple 1 drove the car onto a highway as they headed straight toward Heaven Do City. The Tang logo was placed on the front of the Tang Sect combat vehicle. Upon reaching the highway, the logo lit up and began making a siren-like sound. Tang Wulin was astonished to find that combat vehicle continued to accelerate until it was several times faster than a soul train. The rest of the soul cars on the highway avoided them. They gave way to the vehicle by vacating the innermost lane upon hearing the sound of the siren. Was this a privilege? Could a soul car really travel that fast? Tang Wulin was greatly surprised. As a person encountering accidents on a soul train all the time, he would truly appreciate if he could possess a car capable of driving at such speed and with such privilege. It would be easy and convenient for him to travel anywhere. Purple 1, do we have the privilege of exceeding the speed limit and of having others make way when we drive the Tang Sect combat vehicle? Tang Wulin could not help asking. Purple 1 spoke, what's on your mind, huh? We're only allowed to do so when we are performing special missions with the sect's permission and the Federation's knowledge. Our Tang Sect doesn't have any privileges. I see. Even though Tang Wulin was slightly disappointed, he thought it was reasonable. After all, there were quite a lot of Tang Sect fighters. If each one was allowed to drive with such privileges, a careless driver could possibly cause a traffic accident. It made more sense that they were only allowed to do so for special missions. Purple 1 continued, however, that's not always strictly the case. If you were to make special contributions to both the sect and the Federation, you'll be awarded the Special Contribution Medal by the Federation that is used together with our combat vehicle, and that might grant you some privileges. Of course, this must be formally applied too. I believe there are a few fighters with such vehicles in our Battle Soul Hall. You can check the information database for the specific requirements when you return. Thank you, Tang Wulin answered. This was a good development. He would give it more consideration after he had gone back and looked into it. It was possible to possess such privileges at Tang Sect as in Shrek Academy. At this point, Tang Wulin could not help thinking about his yellow mecha. He should actually upgrade it with his current forging skill. It would be much easier to commute with the mecha. There were so many things he really wanted to do. He cracked a slight smile thinking about the possibilities open to him. Purple One was an extremely skilled driver. He could handle the Tang Sect combat vehicle at high speed, going even faster than a Seoul Express train as they entered Heaven-Do City. It was already getting dark. The car slowed down and got off the highway as Purple One drove the car into Heaven-Do City. At the same time, he initiated the combat vehicle's camouflage system, so it instantly turned into an ordinary car and did not appear that conspicuous anymore. Tang Wulin could not help feeling dispirited upon entering the city. He could see many camps and makeshift shelters on both sides of the road. With his sharp ears, he would occasionally hear crying voices. All sorts of Federation rescue vehicles could be seen everywhere. He could only imagine how catastrophic this terrorist attack had been on Heaven-Do City. The ancient city that had existed for over 20,000 years had been ravaged. The Holy Spirit cult was truly an abomination. Purple One spoke with a deep voice, "It's a little late now. Are any of you not trained for night operations?" No one uttered a word. "Very well. We shall immediately head to the abandoned factory area to carry out our search. I don't know how long it will take us to find some clues, so we ought to begin early." "Yellow 2, are you all right physically?" "I'm fine," Yellow 2 answered with a crisp voice. Purple One asked because she was a recovery-type Soul Master. Purple One took a glance at the vehicle-mounted navigation system. He turned the steering wheel and drove them onto a path. Not many cars were on it, so the vehicle gradually gained speed as it headed for the suburb. Tang Wulin closed his eyes to rest. His right hand subconsciously pressed against the yellow fighter's badge he had just received earlier. The yellow fighter's badge could elevate one's spiritual power to a certain extent, and it had multiple other capabilities such as positioning, locating, and low-range radar. With an attached communicator that was connected to the badge's internal database, it was highly functional despite its small size. There was a vast difference between yellow rank and white rank when it came to the bearer's benefits. If white fighters were described as reserve officers, then yellow fighters were the Battle Soul Hall's main combat force. Finally, the Tang Sect combat vehicle arrived at a region that was obviously abandoned when the sky had completely darkened. One could see the shadows of the factory buildings from afar. There was no lighting, so the place appeared desolate and bleak. As soon as the car had driven into the area, one could feel a chilly sensation flooding into one's chest. Purple One stopped the combat vehicle and spoke softly, "Check your communicator." The group of them pressed onto their own badge separately and verified one by one according to the numerical sequence. Communication effective. Exit the vehicle, Purple One instructed, and then got out of the car while shutting off all the car lights. The group left the vehicle in succession. The frosty gloominess felt unusually apparent now. Purple One looked at his surroundings and said, "Yellow 2, team with Yellow 4. Yellow 1, Yellow 3, and myself will make up 4 teams to spread out and search. Immediately report if you make any discovery. Don't act rashly if you discover an evil Soul Master. Call out to your teammates first. Remember, prioritize your safety before anything else. Understood?" Understood. It was apparent that the abandoned factory district was huge. Every one of them was given a blueprint. Purple One spread his out and divided the search area, reserving the deepest part for himself. "Move." Purple One waved his hand once at the Tang Sect combat vehicle. With a flicker of radiance, the car was placed in the ring on his finger. He then led them as they made their way to the factory. Tang Wulin had a storage ring of his own. The enormous space inside the ring was enough to store even a mecha, but he had left it in the academy before the military training. Yellow 1 swiftly merged into the darkness. Tang Wulin glanced at his map and advanced in his assigned direction. There was a violet flash in his eyes as he utilized the purple demon eyes to observe his surroundings clearly without the need for any lighting equipment. The purple demon eyes was the Tang Sect technique almost all of their fighters were skilled in. Purple One did not make a conscious effort to instruct everyone to wear the protective clothing because he was confident in them. Everyone possessed battle armor, and the armor was more useful than any protective clothing. Tang Wulin did not feel uncomfortable at all. His Golden Dragon King bloodline was so powerful that ordinarily hazardous substances could not invade his body. Tang Wulin advanced rapidly. He initiated his yellow badge's micro-radar function as he was walking and sensing everything in his surroundings. It was his first time using the micro-radar, which was capable of detecting within a range of 100 meters in diameter and used the data to project a three-dimensional image into his spirit sea. It was said the design was inspired by the spiritual detection of Spirit Ice Dolor Huiyuhao Spirit Ice Soul skill. Of course, the detection range was much smaller compared to the Spirit Ice Dolor. The micro-radar came with a heat detector that was especially effective in detecting living things, making it very convenient. Tang Wulin turned on the radar and kept his soul power infused. A three-dimensional image of the area within a range of 100 meters immediately appeared in his mind. His surroundings were all shabby factories and facilities, and it felt extremely bleak and desolate. It was described as searching, but Tang Wulin would actually only need to walk around the factory and rely on the micro-radar to complete the basic search. Tang Wulin advanced swiftly while he controlled his soul power to seal his pores and aura simultaneously, allowing him to move agilely and make as little noise as possible. Tang Wulin picked up the silent skill from Old Demon Blight on Demon Island. The most important part about sneaking into a place was to ensure that the enemy had no way to discover him. Old Demon Blight's skill was extremely sophisticated. Not only was he capable of silencing his breath, he was also capable of manipulating his soul power and destruction energy, fusing them together until his body temperature could be concealed. He could even avoid being detected by a heat sensor. Tang Wulin was applying what he had learned. Even if someone was to use all sorts of detectors right now, there was no way for anyone to discover him after he had completely sealed his breath, soul power, and altered his body temperature. Old Demon Blight told Tang Wulin that everyone only had one life to live, so he would need to be most vigilant at all times to confront possible threats. There was no time for regret when a mistake happened, because he would already be dead. Tang Wulin remembered especially clearly of all the demon's teachings, due to the many kinds of torment he faced there. Thus, he used the silent skill and was concealing himself as much as possible as he advanced soundlessly. He was even using his soul power to minimize the signature of the micro-radar's energy fluctuation. Tang Wulin was the fastest at learning the silent skill among the Shrek 7 monsters because his spiritual power was the strongest. His Spirit Abyss-ranked spiritual power allowed him to have the precise controls necessary to complete the skill. Tang Wulin quickly searched a large area, but there was nothing to be found. There was not even an insect or pest of any kind in the place, perhaps due to the hazardous materials. It was genuinely dead silent. Inner zone search is complete. All clear, a voice echoed from the communicator in his ear. East zone search is complete. All clear, followed Yellow 1. Tang Wulin pressed onto his communicator and spoke, West zone search is complete. All clear. Yellow 2's voice sounded, searching South zone now. Purple 1 spoke, Yellow 1, Yellow 3, both of you head to South zone to rendezvous with Yellow 2 and Yellow 4. I'll search the North zone before rejoining all of you. Yes. As captain, Purple 1 naturally undertook a heavier workload than everybody else. This was the Battle Soul Hall's rule that everybody could naturally execute. Tang Wulin advanced toward the South zone swiftly, relying on the Yellow Bad's positioning device to locate Yellow 2 and Yellow 4. Yellow 1 arrived one step earlier than him because agility-type Soul Masters would always be slightly faster. It looks like there's nothing here. Yellow 1 spoke with slight disappointment. According to this mission's criteria, one must discover something before the mission was considered complete. Otherwise, one could only score 1/3 of the reward promised. Yellow 2 smiled. I hope that Purple 1 will bring us good news. Tang Wulin could only nod. He was frowning ever so slightly under his mask. Even though he found nothing in his search earlier, he had had a feeling that something was not right the whole time. He had fought evil Soul Masters on numerous occasions, and he was highly perceptive. He sensed that there was an unseen force in the factory that made him very uneasy. It had not taken long before a figure confronted them. Tang Wulin and his teammates instinctively got into a defensive formation while examining their badges. It was Purple One. Purple One's body moved in a flash. All clear. The abandoned factory is completely empty. The heat sensors aren't detecting anything either. Yellow One spoke, so what do we do? Was this a waste of time? Purple One considered for a moment. It seems like this is it. Logically, the evil soul masters should have retreated to a distant location after launching an attack on this scale. They wouldn't be staying near Heaven Dose City anymore. Anyway, the army already searched this place, and they also didn't find anything. Frustrated, Yellow 2 sighed softly. Yellow 4 did not speak and neither did Tang Wulin. Purple One pondered for a moment before he said, "All right, let's withdraw. We can't remain here for no reason. Our search using the fighter's badge is extremely reliable. If the badge's micro-radar didn't manage to pick up anything, then it's difficult for us to discover anything more even if we were to stay here. We must return first before we discuss any further." Boo-hoo, a soft weeping sound suddenly echoed at that exact moment. At once, the 5 fighters reacted to the sound, looking toward the direction where the crying was coming from. The sobbing that suddenly echoed within the abandoned factory in the pitch-black night made the hairs on the back of their necks stand up immediately. Tang Wulin was the calmest one because he had seen way too many dubious situations on the Demon Island. "Who's there?" Purple One shouted sternly while initiating the micro-radar on his fighter's badge. He was astonished that there was no trace of any life form at all within his micro-radar's over 300-meter range. Boo-hoo, the sobbing sound continued. Tang Wulin frowned ever so slightly as if he suddenly recalled something. Soon after, the mournful noise was heard loudly from all around as if countless people were crying. The crying echoed and made the surrounding factories seem to become disturbed as well. Shadows overlapped at once while those abandoned facilities seemed to become alive and were swaying gently. "Be careful, everyone!" Purple One shouted in a deep voice while unleashing his martial soul. A total of 7 soul rings arose from underneath his feet. Tang Wulin was surprised to learn that he was a 7-ringed soul sage. There was no doubt that the Battle Soul Hall was extremely cautious when it came to arranging missions. Every fighter was precious to the hall. Hence, even though they were only a reconnaissance squadron, they were paired with a 7-ringed Soul Sage Battle Armor Master. Being both a 7-ringed Soul Sages as well as a 2-word Battle Armor Master made him capable of possessing power that exceeded an ordinary title d'honneur, so he could easily handle whatever perilous situation came his way. Yellow 1, Yellow 2, and Yellow 4 each unleashed their 5-ringed martial souls. Yellow 4 retreated to the rear, with her back against Yellow 2. Yellow 1 and Tang Wulin stood on either side while Purple 1 stood at the front and forming a standard cross-combat formation. Tang Wulin also unleashed his 2 yellow and 3 purple soul rings. His 5 soul rings appeared slightly different from the rest of the 3 yellow fighters. It was the disguise skill. Perhaps it should be called the soul ring disguise skill that originated from Old Demon Nightmare. The most direct manner for soul masters to identify each other's power was by looking at the color and quantity of their soul rings. Different colors represented different cultivation bases, while soul rings also clearly revealed a soul master's strength or weakness. Because of this, Old Demon Nightmare passed on the disguise skill to Tang Wulin, which allowed him to fuse together, control and warp a person's field of vision through his spiritual and destructive power. In other words, the radiance emitted from his soul rings was refracted, making the others see them as having different colors. The disguise skill was ineffective in actual combat, but it was very useful, especially after Tang Wulin acquired the strange green-gold soul ring from Nature's Child. He appeared no different from an ordinary soul master. Boo-hoo! 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 The sobbing sound was growing more and more bitter. One could not help shivering upon hearing it. Purple 1 spoke coldly, "Stop acting like a ghost. Come out." He pointed his right hand to the sky as he was saying that. A ball of white light surged skyward despite his soul ring, which had not even been triggered. The mass of white light was condensed. It surged upright to the sky 50 meters above before it suddenly exploded and transformed into a white halo ring that illuminated the surrounding ground. He had such powerful control over his soul power. Tang Wulin was shocked because Purple One lived up to his reputation as a purple fighter. The effect was obviously launched with his mysterious heaven method soul power. It conserved soul power as compared to using his soul skill. At the same time, it had an illuminating effect. It appeared to consume massive power, but in reality, the soul power that was expended was insignificant. There was nothing on the ground. With his purple demon eyes, he did not see anything suspicious within his visual field. Purple One spoke with a deep voice, "Follow me." As he was saying that, he walked outside in quick strides. There was no doubt that the peculiar situation was only happening within the factory. It would be better for them to leave the place. Boo-hoo, 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 the sobbing echoed once again while the surrounding air turned bleak and cold. Just as Purple One and the 4 yellow fighters were about to head out from the factory zone, the surrounding space began to warp violently that they could not distinguish their direction anymore. Everyone felt dizzy as if the sky and land were churning as a whole. An unknown fear and spiritual stress suddenly overwhelmed them, akin to rising tidewater rushing in and overpowering them. Meanwhile, they had yet to discover where the enemy was coming from. Purple One spoke with a deep voice, "It's a spiritual illusion. It's possibly an enemy skilled in spiritual power. I can't reach the headquarters. Be careful, everyone. Stay together." He noticed that a vine had wound around his waist. Instinctively, he turned his head to find Tang Wulin making a hand gesture at him. The most scary part about being in an illusion was that they would lose communication with one another after they were forcefully separated by the enemy. Tang Wulin managed to unleash his blue-silver emperor to solve this issue. The sobbing grew louder while the surroundings were spinning rapidly, akin to being on a merry-go-round. Purple One attempted to launch an attack, but his attack dissipated as soon as it struck the illusion, just like clay oxen going into the sea. Purple One stopped acting rashly. He felt like he had sunk into the deepest valley for falling into the enemy's deadly illusion. An illusion of this stature was definitely not something that could be unleashed by an ordinary soul master. This had to be done by a person with domain abilities. It would be extremely difficult for them to break away from the enemy's domain. It was apparent that the enemy was attempting to cut off their communications with headquarters, requesting for reinforcements. Meanwhile, Tang Wulin's voice echoed in Purple One's ears, "Purple One, it's Yellow 3 here. I know how to break the illusion temporarily. Get us out of here using the fastest method when I'm diffusing the illusion." "Okay." He did not question how Tang Wulin was going to diffuse the illusion. A Tang Sect fighter's steady composure was undoubtedly revealed at this time. Tang Wulin's voice was heard simultaneously in the ears of his fellow fighters. In the next moment, he spoke softly, 3, 2, 1. The group was pulled together in unison following Tang Wulin's count of 3. Soon after, Tang Wulin straightened his body. There appeared to be no change in the 5 soul rings on his body. In reality, it had already been replaced with the Golden Dragon King's 4 bloodline soul rings. Roar, a raging roar that shook the heaven and earth was heard that it shut out the sobbing sound instantly. A terrifying and deafening roar was unleashed as if an enormous golden dragon head was about to surge skyward. The illusion was at once shattered, akin to a bubble popping, while the surrounding factory area seemed to have returned to normal instantly. There was no need for Tang Wulin to speak. Purple One had already leaped and pulled at the blue-silver emperor on his body with both his hands simultaneously. He had relied on his 7-ring soul sage cultivation base to gather Tang Wulin and the rest to dash out swiftly. The sudden turn of events took the concealed enemy hiding in a dark corner by surprise. Their speeds were unusually swift as they dashed out of the factory zone. A seemingly sad scream pierced the air. A gigantic skull suddenly bored out of the ground just as they were about to dash out of the factory. The skull was 10 meters high with green flames darting from its eye sockets. A puff of green flames shot out toward Tang Wulin's group of 5 as it opened its mouth. Although it was not hot, the 5 people felt an intense piercing pain permeating their souls simultaneously. It was as if the soul fire was burning in their minds. What trick was this? Purple One roared in rage as purple radiance shot out violently from his eyes. He had already perfected his purple demon eyes. At the same time, pieces of battle armor turned around swiftly on his body. A pair of wings spread open behind his back to block the green flames from hurting the 4 people behind him. A muffled humph was heard as Purple One staggered once. The dark brown battle armor covering his body was tainted by the green flames, much to everyone's surprise. Yellow One shouted in her pleasing voice as a stream of pure white flames swept across Purple One's body. Spiritual heal. Her execution was precise because there was no doubt that the green flames were aimed at attacking one sea of spirit. The green flames on Purple One's body were subdued as expected. However, the flames spurting out from the gigantic skull had spread out in all directions and were sweeping toward them. Yellow 4 shouted as the 4th soul ring on his body glowed brightly. A revolving, circular shield appeared. The shield was covered with a layer of strange scales when it was conjured. The strange scales rapidly spread out and transformed into a protective shield that enshrouded the whole group. At the same time, everyone's battle armor was already unleashed to enhance their defenses. Purple One roared once as the 6th soul ring on his body shimmered. Finally, the group of people found out his martial soul. A purple giant dragon flew into the sky following a loud and distinct cry. It flapped its wings in the sky as a purple energy storm swept across an area 100 meters ahead of them abruptly. The purple jade divine eagle was a species of extremely powerful flying-type soul beasts. Purple One was launching his 6th soul skill at present, which was known as the Divine Eagle Heavenly Dance. The Divine Eagle Heavenly Dance was capable of unleashing the purple jade storm. The dual spiritual and physical attack storm was released as a siege attack that was capable of attacking a large area. The purple storm lashed into the giant skull's green flames. However, it only managed to block the flames from continuing to lash at the group but was incapable of launching an attack. It was at that moment they understood that the enemy they were fighting was far more powerful than them. They had not even seen the person, yet they were already in an inferior position. The calmest person at the moment was Tang Wulin. After his horrendous experiences on Demon Island, his mental strength far exceeded the ordinary folks. Tang Wulin was not in a rush to attack as he was observing the gigantic skull closely when Purple One and Purple 4 were resisting the enemy's attack. He realized that there was a ring of faint green radiance that was continually accumulating in the skull's direction whenever the giant skull spurted green flames. It was as if the skull was absorbing something from its surroundings. Tang Wulin grew more certain of his judgment when he witnessed the scene. Roar, his 3rd soul ring shimmered as the golden dragon roar was heard once again. The green flame spurting from the skull's mouth flickered slightly, but it did not appear to be weakening. However, one would notice the faint green radiance around the skull vanish each time the golden dragon roar was unleashed. Meanwhile, Tang Wulin leaped from the side. The golden dragon spear had already appeared in his right palm, flashing with a golden radiance. The piercing golden radiance emanated from his body as he flung his arm, transforming the golden dragon spear into a golden electrode that shot straight into the skull's forehead. The entire process from launching the golden dragon roar to hurling the golden dragon spear was completed by the time it took to blink one's eyes twice. It was apparent that the giant skull was affected by the golden dragon roar. Meanwhile, the golden dragon spear had already arrived at the center of the skull's forehead within a split second. A green light shield appeared simultaneously, but nonetheless, it was penetrated by the golden dragon spear. The shield vanished in a flash the moment it came into contact with the golden dragon spear's tip. The golden dragon spear was equipped with 3 special abilities that were puncture, penetrate, and devour. Each time Tang Wulin broke through a layer of the golden dragon king seal, his control and comprehension of the golden dragon spear would be elevated by a rank. The giant skull tilted backward due to the momentum created by the golden dragon spear after it penetrated the shield. The green flames in its mouth spurted into the sky. Tang Wulin let out a loud and distinct dragon's roar while he was in the air. A flash of golden shadow appeared in midair as he launched the golden dragon flies. Tang Wulin immediately tossed out the golden dragon spear before urging the golden dragon flies to the side of the giant skull as he flung his right hand brazenly. 5 streams of dark golden, 7-meter-long blade radiances flashed once as the radiances pounded into the giant skull. Scraping and shattering noises were heard simultaneously. The green radiance dissipated at once as countless flames shot out intensely. Tang Wulin crossed his arms to protect himself as the golden radiance enshrouded his body. He somersaulted backward, landing on the ground. He waved his right hand once to conjure a stream of golden radiance that shot forward before returning to his hand like a boomerang. It was the golden dragon spear which had rendered its outstanding performance earlier. Let alone Yellow 1, Yellow 2, and Yellow 4, even Purple 1 was stunned from witnessing the present scene. The entire episode only took 2 breaths from the moment when Tang Wulin had an outburst until he crushed the skull. The skull that had given them much trouble was finally shattered. It was simply unbelievable. Go, quick! Tang Wulin shouted aloud to jolt his comrades out of their daze. They immediately reacted and quickly dashed out from the factory zone together with him. The terrifying, overbearing force vanished as soon as they exited the factory. There was no enemy chasing after them either. Purple 1 flung his hand and outshot the Tang Sect combat vehicle. He took the lead and leaped into the vehicle while the rest jumped into the vehicle in succession. He stepped on the accelerator to its maximum as he drove them at full speed back to where they came from. In the factory district, a figure emerged silently from afar. He appeared to be a middle-aged man over 40 with 7 soul rings shimmering on his body. He had 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black soul rings. His right hand was holding a pitch-black staff with a light orb which appeared as a mist of green light floating on top of the staff. His expression was unpleasant and gloomy. He broke my Devil Devour skull. I'm afraid that the people from Tang Sect will be coming soon. We can't handle everything, for we must leave immediately after we've collected all the grieving souls here. Yes? A large stretch of skulls which were densely arranged flew up from around him. Each skull was shimmering with green flames in its eye sockets. These skulls, which were much smaller than the giant skull, flew out rapidly in all directions. The Tang Sect combat vehicle drove at high speed. The group's battle armors were gradually retracted into their bodies, accompanied by streams of radiances. Yellow 4 could not help staring at Tang Wulin in surprise. Yellow 3, how did you do that? The attack earlier was simply amazing. The skull exploded into pieces at one go. Oh my god, you're truly impressive. Tang Wulin spoke. It's not that I'm impressive, it's just that the skull wasn't as powerful as you imagined. Purple 1 had just completed his report to the headquarters. The communication signal had returned to normal upon leaving the factory district. He could not help turning around upon hearing Tang Wulin's words and asked, "Tell us what happened." Tang Wulin answered, "When the sobbing sounds appeared, we hadn't spotted any signs of life. This indicated the sounds weren't produced by a life form. I've recently witnessed some peculiar situations. Thus, I made a bold guess that the sobbing sounds were probably made by vengeful spirits within the factory. Judging by our mission, the target factory was involved in a major hazardous substance leakage incident, so there was bound to be a lot of fatalities. Those innocent victims who were accidentally killed could have become vengeful spirits. These vengeful spirits were supposed to perish naturally, but they could exist for a longer period of time if someone were to manipulate their existence intentionally, such as evil soul masters. Thus, I made a bold speculation that those were vengeful spirits when we couldn't determine the source of the sobbing sound. It was probably the vengeful spirits of those people who died in the factory earlier. The illusion that appeared later could have been triggered by the vengeful spirits. One would require an enormous amount of spiritual power to control the vengeful spirits. We couldn't tell where our enemy was hiding. In order to leave the tight encirclement, we had to disrupt the enemy's control of the vengeful spirits. Hence, I used the sound soul skill of mine. The raging roar's dual sonic and spiritual shocking effects made the vengeful spirits lose control momentarily, such that we could escape from the place. Although the giant skull has a powerful attacking ability, I noticed that there was a lot of radiance which was similar to the vengeful spirits which scared us gathering underneath the skull. Hence, I made a wild guess that the source of the giant skull's energy was most likely from the vengeful spirits in the factory. If my guess was right, then the enemy hiding in the dark corner was possibly not as powerful as we had imagined, for he was only relying on the vengeful spirits in the factory to become so powerful. Tang Wulin paused for a moment before he continued. if he wasn't that powerful, then the skull which he unleashed would naturally be flawed in its defense as well. I used this knowledge to launch an attack. As expected, it was easily destroyed after the channeling of the vengeful spirits was halted. My guess was confirmed when no one chased after us after we left that place. The enemy was certainly not that powerful. He wasn't a worthy opponent outside of the factory. The people in the Tang Sect combat vehicle became silent after listening to Tang Wulin's analysis. After a long while, Purple One, who was driving the vehicle, spoke slowly. "Did you truly enter the same factory as us?" It was obvious that his voice sounded rather bitter. He was the mission's captain, yet he did not discover the enemy's true purpose and made a proper judgment of the situation when they were confronted by danger. If it were not for Tang Wulin's correct hunch and his heroic effort to turn the tide during the crucial moments, they would possibly still be trapped in that place. Yellow 1, Yellow 2, and Yellow 4 were also looking at Tang Wulin as if he were a monster. His fighting capacity was impressive, but his analytical ability was even more incredible. Tang Wulin scratched his head. He did not think it was anything out of the ordinary. In fact, it felt quite normal for him. Why were his teammates in awe of him? He was unaware that he had changed into a different person after undergoing the special training on Demon Island, which included his ability to observe, react to emergencies, and make quick decisions. He had far exceeded the abilities of any ordinary person and even the Tang Sect fighters. The extraordinary ability which he had unintentionally revealed was enough to shock his teammates. The Tang Sect combat vehicle stopped after it was driven into the city. They waited for the arrival of reinforcements. It did not take long before two black fighters appeared silently. The two black fighters looked at Tang Wulin approvingly before they vanished into the night. "So, what are we going to do now?" Yellow 1 asked Purple 1. Purple 1 replied, "We shall wait here for the result. At the same time, we can also check if our mission is completed. Everyone can rest for a while in the car if you're tired. I'll be on watch." While he was a little envious of Tang Wulin's ability, he also felt guilty. If it were not for Tang Wulin's resolute effort to turn the tide, they would have suffered a great loss this time. Moreover, they could have been annihilated. If that were the case, he could not absolve himself from being accountable as the captain. Tang Wulin walked toward Purple 1 and was about to say something when Purple 1 shook his head at Tang Wulin. "I'm fine. There's no need to console me. I'm very glad to have a teammate like you. Also, I realize that we're still lacking in many areas to fight the evil soul masters. I'll work hard to compensate for the inadequacies when I return to the headquarters." Tang Wulin gave him a thumbs up, for he had proven himself to be a fighter. There were a few reasons that resulted in Purple 1's failure to react to the emergency situation today. One was because it happened abruptly, while the other was his lack of understanding of the evil soul masters. In addition to the fact that he was not a calm person, he also lacked the experience to fight the evil soul masters. However, all these things did not affect his outstanding qualities. Fighting against the evil soul masters was a long, arduous journey. Tang Wulin's performance had annoyed him a little. Nevertheless, as long as he remained a fighter, he would continue to improve himself. Yellow 1, Yellow 2, and Yellow 4 came over and thanked Tang Wulin. The situation over at the factory was uncertain. No one had any intention of taking a rest, so they could only wait here patiently. They waited until the skies were almost bright when the two black fighters returned with the news. The evil soul masters within the factory had left. Tang Wulin's judgment was correct. The evil soul masters had used the wraiths within the factory. There was also an altar deep beneath the factory. Judging from the altar's use, the wraiths of the factory had been exorcised. Many souls of the casualties in the terror attack had been exorcised at the altar by the evil soul masters. Everyone had a heavy heart upon receiving the information. At the same time, the two black fighters also announced that their mission was accomplished. For Tang Wulin's outstanding performance throughout the mission, he was awarded half of the mission's rewards, while the other 4 fighters divided the remaining half among themselves. One could not decline the rewards given despite one's modesty. When the superior fighters had decided, the lower-ranked fighters had no choice but to obey. Also, Purple One and the others sincerely thought that Tang Wulin deserved the rewards. The rewards of the mission were already doubled to begin with. Now that he had half of it for himself, Tang Wulin definitely reaped a more than generous reward. However, the mission had also left an indelible mark in his heart. He had seen the savageries of the Holy Spirit cult. Even with the Federation's strength, there was nothing it could do to the Holy Spirit cult. Although the attack had happened a long time ago, they were still unable to locate the main forces of the current Holy Spirit cult's mission. This time, they had finally gotten hold of some clues after all the trouble, but the evil soul masters still managed to get away. Indeed, it would be difficult to believe that they did not receive any outside assistance. The inner network of the Holy Spirit cult was truly terrifying. Purple One drove the Tang Sect's fighting vehicle back to Shrek City. After he reported on the mission's completion and claimed his points, the whole team was disbanded. Tang Wulin did not accept any more missions. Instead, he headed back to the academy. He wanted to go back and retrieve his things before anything else. Then, he planned to go to Heaven Do City where his uncle master was. When he had accomplished the mission, he knew that the Blacksmiths Association was not affected by the Great Explosion. This turned out to be a great fortune amidst misfortune. Everything within Shrek Academy remained the same. Tang Wulin went to the inner court. He proceeded to Sea God's Island to report himself. He had barely reached Sea God's Island when he was shocked to see someone waiting at the shores. The person wore a white garment and had his hands behind his back. His handsome face had a faint coldness to it. When he saw Tang Wulin coming over, he was hardly perturbed. Instead, he waved at him. Tang Wulin tapped the water's surface with the tip of his toes and landed steadily on the shore. Then, he quickly bowed and paid his respects. Elder Yun. The person who was waiting on the shores was none other than Shrek Academy's current pavilion master, Atlas Dolor Yun Ming. Yun Ming nodded slightly toward him. Come with me. He turned around and walked toward the inner parts of Sea God's Island. Tang Wulin hastily followed after him. Outwardly, Yun Ming did not seem to be walking very fast. However, Tang Wulin had to run with all his might just to keep up with him. Sea God's Island was not that big. In no time, Tang Wulin had followed him to the Sea God Pavilion. They entered the Sea God Pavilion, but Yun Ming did not stop in the hall. Instead, he walked up the stairs. Tang Wulin followed behind him and looked curiously at his surroundings. He was not familiar with the Sea God Pavilion, which made him highly curious regarding the place. The wooden hut was not spacious and was built leaning on the gold tree. It was one of the most revered places on the entire Dolor continent. Yun Ming brought Tang Wulin all the way up to the Sea God Pavilion's third floor. They went into an empty room. There was no furniture inside the room, only 2 rush cushions on the floor. Yun Ming sat on the one further inside the room. He pointed at the cushion opposite. Sit. Tang Wulin obeyed and sat down. He was feeling both shock and curious. Could it be that Elder Yun was waiting for me by the shore? He was not in the least surprised that Yun Ming knew about his return. With Elder Yun's cultivation base, he reckoned that Elder Yun would have known the instant he set foot in Shrek City. Do you have any news of Nao? Asked Yun Ming with his lowered voice. Tang Wulin shuddered inwardly, but he shook his head with a bitter smile. He did not have any news, whether it was about Nao or Guu. Yun Ming suddenly said, You formed a soul power vortex already. Tang Wulin looked at him with astonishment. He then nodded. Although he could not quite comprehend Yun Ming's rank, he was wondering about the capability of his eyes that could see a person's soul power vortex just by looking at the person. It was as if his body could be seen through by Yun Ming's gaze. Yun Ming's brows were slightly furrowed. He seemed to be pondering something. Finally, he spoke after a long while, Are there any problems? Tang Wulin shook his head. It's just as teacher said. The soul power vortex is normal. I, myself, am unsure why the soul power vortex formed at my rank. I thought that it would only appear just before I attain rank 7. Yun Ming said, In truth, the soul power vortex and ranks are unrelated. It's only related to the density of one's soul power. Once your soul power has reached a certain concentration level, it will increasingly resemble a solid. However, there's no such thing as a soul power in solid form. Hence, the soul power that's nearly solid will exist in such a unique state, and that is a vortex. Simply put, if you have highly concentrated chocolate syrup and you leave it alone in its natural state, it'll quickly form into chunks. Or, imagine a cup of hypersaline water, crystals will quickly form and settle at the bottom of the cup. However, when you stir them constantly and maintain the stirring, they will stay in their liquid state. Such liquids can maintain their high density and are also evenly distributed. It's the same with soul power. After your soul power reaches a certain level, your body will naturally manage it. At the same time, your body will guide it to form a vortex. It is a natural process of soul power cultivation until the condensation of a soul core. The soul power vortex itself possesses a strong attractive force. It attracts the soul power within you, and it has a very powerful pull on the outer world's origin energy. This can help you obtain twice the results with half the effort in your cultivation. It's very rare for you to be able to form a soul power vortex with your 5-ring cultivation base. Back then, I'd also formed the soul power vortex when I was at rank 59. After that, the rate of my cultivation from rank 60 to rank 70 wasn't much different from rank 50 to rank 60. After hearing Yun Ming's words, Tang Wulin had newfound knowledge about the soul power vortex. Also, he was astonished that the Sea God Pavilion's pavilion master Elder Yun had imparted his knowledge to him. He formed his soul power vortex at rank 59? Does this mean that I'm going to surpass him in this aspect? Although he was startled, Tang Wulin remembered everything Yun Ming said. These were the teachings of a person who was regarded as the best under the heavens. The majority of soul masters would never have such a chance in their lifetimes. When Yun Ming saw that Tang Wulin was listening keenly, he continued, "From now on, all you have to do is just cultivate conventionally. With the soul power vortex as your foundation, your cultivation base will increase very quickly. If you have any problems, you can come and ask me in the Sea God Pavilion." Understood. Thank you, Elder Yun, said Tang Wulin in reverence. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.